The person who remains on your mind so often truly does care about you in a deep and meaningful way. However, the real reason for the distance between the two of you may not be what you expect. This message carries a great deal of emotional weight because it reaches into that quiet space that exists between two people who feel something powerful yet rarely speak about it openly. When someone stays in your thoughts constantly, not just from time to time or by random chance, but over and over again, there is often a reason that goes beyond coincidence. If there is distance between you, whether it appears as emotional separation, physical space, or complete silence, then it is important to look beneath the surface. The gap you notice may not be what it seems at first glance. One of the most important truths to understand is that the person who remains in your thoughts truly loves you in their own unique way. Their love may not appear through dramatic gestures, constant communication, or grand declarations. Instead, it exists in a quieter, steadier, and sometimes more difficult form. This is not someone who has forgotten you or simply moved on without struggle. They carry pieces of you with them throughout their daily life. They remember little details about your voice, your expressions, and the way you made them feel understood or safe. These memories stay close to their heart because those moments affected them more deeply than they may ever admit. This naturally raises a question. If the feelings are real, then why is there distance? The truth is that love does not always bring people closer immediately. Sometimes it causes them to hesitate, retreat, or reflect before they feel capable of fully opening themselves. Deep emotions can create fear just as easily as they create courage. When someone genuinely loves another person, they often become aware of parts of themselves they usually keep hidden. They begin to notice their fears, insecurities, weaknesses, and the possibility of loss. Suddenly, they must face questions about whether they are capable of giving everything that such a connection requires. You touch more than their heart. You also reach old wounds, hidden doubts, and unresolved fears that may still exist beneath the surface. That emotional impact can feel overwhelming. Love has a way of revealing vulnerabilities very clearly, and sometimes those vulnerabilities cause a person to pull away, even while their feelings remain sincere. It is important to remember that distance does not automatically mean a lack of care. Silence is not always evidence of indifference. Quite often, the gap reflects an internal struggle. As someone tries to process emotions that feel too large, too complicated, or too intense to express comfortably, they may want to stay close. They may wish they could speak openly and honestly about everything they feel. Yet fear, uncertainty, and self-doubt continue to hold them back. Their mind fills with difficult questions. They wonder whether they are enough. They worry about disappointing you. They fear that their love could somehow cause pain rather than happiness. These concerns weigh heavily on a person who truly cares. Pulling away becomes a coping mechanism. It is not always a conscious choice. Sometimes it is simply the only way they know how to manage emotions that feel overwhelming. For some people, strong love feels like an enormous responsibility. The deeper their feelings become, the more they want to protect both themselves and the person they care about from rejection, heartbreak, or disappointment. As a result, distance becomes a form of emotional self-protection. They do not want to lose you, yet they are also afraid they might fail to love you in the way they believe you deserve. This fear can be difficult for them to explain, and sometimes they do not completely understand it themselves. They find themselves caught between wanting connection and feeling compelled to withdraw. The space they create often becomes the only strategy they know for handling these conflicting emotions. Every action and even every lack of action carries meaning in situations like this. When they step back, it does not necessarily mean their feelings have faded. In many cases, it means their emotions have become so intense that they need room to understand them. Their affection continues quietly, even when it is not visible. They think about you during ordinary moments. They remember small gestures and conversations. They replay memories and wonder about things they wish they had said. They notice the impact your presence has had on their life, even when they never express it directly. That kind of attachment is real. It may not always appear in obvious ways, but it exists. What looks like distance from the outside may actually be the result of emotions that feel too deep for simple words or frequent communication. Their care survives in quiet moments, in long pauses, and in invisible connections that continue linking their thoughts to yours. Understanding this kind of situation requires patience and a willingness to recognize love in forms that are not always easy to see. Sometimes affection is revealed not through constant action, but through hesitation, reflection, and restraint. This creates a complicated form of connection that challenges both people because it refuses to follow a straightforward path. Such a bond asks for empathy, compassion, and the ability to look beyond appearances. It asks both individuals to understand that emotions are rarely simple and that people often struggle to express what matters most to them. You may feel confused by the silence. You may wonder why someone who seems to care would remain distant. Yet very often, the person occupying your thoughts is emotionally closer than you realize. Their feelings continue even during periods of quiet. Ultimately, the space between you does not define your worth, nor does it accurately measure the depth of their emotions. More often, it reflects the complexity of human feelings. When genuine care collides with personal fears, when you begin to recognize what exists beneath the silence, you start to understand a different side of love. Love is not always loud. It does not always arrive through obvious signs. Sometimes it grows through unspoken hopes, private thoughts, and emotions that remain hidden beneath the surface. The next time you notice that distance, remember that absence and lack of love are not always the same thing. A person can care deeply while still struggling to move closer. Their silence may contain emotions they have not yet learned how to express. The space does not necessarily represent rejection. In many cases, it reflects presence being held carefully inside a heart that is working through challenges of its own. They continue facing fears, doubts, and personal obstacles, but their affection remains. Their love may not be dramatic, it may not be easy to recognize, yet it can still be steady, meaningful, and quietly powerful. The situation exists not because you did something wrong, but because you awakened emotions they were not fully prepared to experience. The distance you see is not necessarily a refusal of connection. Instead, it often functions as a shield, protecting emotions that feel vulnerable and exposed. The truth can be surprising because the space may exist precisely because they care so much rather than because they care too little. One of the deepest fears behind their silence is the realization that getting closer could cause them to fall more deeply into feelings they already struggle to control. Vulnerability feels dangerous to them. They fear becoming emotionally dependent, losing control, or experiencing pain if things do not work out. Rather than taking that emotional risk, they choose silence and distance. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they are trying to protect themselves from possible disappointment or heartbreak. Their distance acts like emotional armor. Deep down, they often believe that you deserve someone stronger, more confident, and more emotionally complete than they currently feel themselves to be. A difficult truth is that they compare themselves to you more than you realize. They see qualities in you that they admire. They notice your emotional depth, your willingness to care, and your ability to connect sincerely with others. Instead of feeling inspired by those qualities, they sometimes become intimidated by them. They convince themselves that they may not be able to meet your expectations or offer the kind of relationship you deserve. Because of this, they pull away while telling themselves they need more time to heal, grow, or understand their own feelings. The distance becomes a complicated expression of care that creates pain for both sides. While you wonder why communication has become limited, an invisible battle continues inside them. Their thoughts constantly move between reaching out and remaining silent. They question every possibility and imagine countless outcomes. They worry about making mistakes. They worry about causing pain. They worry about disappointing someone they deeply respect and care about. Although they appear calm from the outside, their inner world is often filled with noise and uncertainty. They revisit memories repeatedly. Conversations play again and again in their mind. Moments that seemed small to others become significant in their memory. Every smile, every look, every shared experience receives more attention than you might ever imagine. Even when they try to move forward or distract themselves, those thoughts often return. They continue comparing their perceived flaws to the qualities they see in you. More often than not, they conclude that they fall short. You may interpret their distance as indifference, but the reality can be very different. Their feelings are often so strong that they become trapped by them. They feel pulled in opposite directions simultaneously. Part of them longs for closeness. Another part fears what that closeness could demand emotionally. The stronger their desire to connect becomes, the stronger their fears may grow alongside it. This creates a painful contradiction. They want intimacy, yet they move away from it. They crave connection, yet they hesitate to pursue it. Every decision to keep their distance comes with internal conflict. Behind the walls they have built, their heart continues carrying genuine emotion. They constantly weigh risks and search for ways to prevent pain for both of you. Every pause, delay, and moment of silence often reflects the struggle taking place beneath the surface. There are battles within them that no one else can fight on their behalf. While you may experience the distance as abandonment, they often experience it as survival. They are attempting to navigate fear, hope, longing, and uncertainty all at once. They worry about losing themselves within the relationship. They fear not being enough for someone they hold in such high regard. These concerns keep them trapped between moving forward and remaining still. Despite the silence and separation, one truth continues to remain unchanged. Their feelings run deep. Their care is genuine. They want to be present, but they remain caught between affection and self-doubt. Even now, they continue carrying those emotions quietly. The connection remains alive within them, even if their actions do not always reflect what exists in their heart. The distance may be visible, but beneath it lies a complicated mixture of love, fear, admiration, longing, and uncertainty. For now, they remain suspended between the desire to come closer and the fear of what that closeness could awaken. Until they learn how to face those emotions fully, the silence may continue. Yet beneath that silence, their feelings remain far stronger than they appear. Their silence does not necessarily reflect a lack of love. More often, it reveals love intertwined with hesitation, uncertainty, and an ongoing inner struggle. They try to balance their emotions with the realities of everyday life, while wondering how they might fit into your world without creating disruption or pain. Their heart remains active through private thoughts, unspoken feelings, and quiet dreams of peaceful moments shared together. They continue holding on in their own way, even if it does not resemble the visible signs of affection most people expect. One day, when circumstances feel more favorable and their fears begin to settle, they may choose to step forward once again. If that happens, it will not be because they forgot you and suddenly remembered. It will happen because genuine affection rarely disappears completely from the hearts of those who have felt it deeply. Until then, the distance reflects their personal battles and serves as a quiet reminder of the feelings they continue to carry within. They miss you more often than they allow others to see. One difficult truth is that love without personal healing frequently creates separation. This reality can be hard to accept, yet it appears often. Feelings alone are not always enough when someone is still carrying wounds from previous experiences. Old pain connected to trust, independence, vulnerability, or commitment can make a new connection feel frightening instead of comforting. Your presence awakens a sense of responsibility that they sometimes associate with possible disappointment or loss. Because of that, they create space not because they care too little, but because they care in a way that unsettles them. They do not completely trust their own ability to remain emotionally steady or to protect your heart in the way they believe it deserves. This awareness creates fear because they recognize the depth of your feelings and the sincerity of your intentions. As a result, distance begins to appear like the safer choice to them. Stepping back feels less risky than moving forward and potentially causing harm. While this decision may create confusion for you, it often feels like self-preservation for them. Now, consider your side of the situation and why your thoughts continue returning to this person again and again. Emotional connections rarely stop the moment communication ends. Your intuition sensed something unfinished. There were feelings left unspoken, conversations that never happened, and a bond that never had the opportunity to reach its full potential. Your mind keeps returning to them because a part of you still feels that something remains unresolved. The connection feels paused rather than completed. When situations end without clear closure, the mind naturally revisits memories, possibilities, and unanswered questions. You replay moments in your thoughts. You imagine different outcomes. You revisit conversations and search for meaning inside the silence. This process goes beyond ordinary nostalgia because it involves unfinished emotional experiences. Your heart continues trying to understand a connection that never fully expressed everything it contained. Even when you make efforts to move forward, your thoughts often seek some form of completion. This does not indicate weakness or an inability to let go. Instead, it reflects the strength and significance of what you experienced. The bond left a meaningful impression that your heart continues to process. Emotional cycles often appear when love is interrupted before it has the opportunity to fully unfold. The experience leaves a lasting imprint that quietly returns through memories, hopes, and reflections about what could have been. You may occasionally feel frustrated with yourself for thinking about them so often. Yet, this response is remarkably human. Your mind and heart are attempting to understand something that your deeper self recognized as important, even if circumstances prevented it from developing further. Distance does not erase love. More often, it postpones resolution. Recognizing this can bring a sense of peace because recurring thoughts are not proof of failure or emotional weakness. They are evidence that the experience mattered. The connection continues to influence you, even without regular communication. Real bonds often extend beyond physical presence and reveal themselves through subtle ways that shape your inner world. The impact remains because what you shared carried emotional significance. Every period of silence and every stretch of distance often contains lessons that are difficult to recognize immediately. Sometimes space teaches patience. Sometimes it develops emotional strength, self-awareness, and a deeper understanding of your own heart. It encourages you to sit with your emotions rather than run from them. It invites you to examine what truly matters to you and what kind of love you ultimately desire. Your thoughts return not because you are trapped, but because a deeper part of you understands that love rarely follows a straight path. Timing, healing, and emotional readiness often play larger roles than people expect. The connection between you still carries energy that does not disappear easily. Instead, it waits quietly for understanding, acceptance, and sometimes forgiveness from everyone involved. During this period of waiting, you discover that love can still hold meaning even when it does not reach perfect completion. Certain experiences remain valuable precisely because of what they teach. They leave lasting impressions that shape future choices and deepen emotional wisdom. Every memory that returns serves a purpose. Each reflection becomes part of your growth. Your heart continues processing what happened while your mind gradually learns to distinguish between fear-based distance and genuine care. Over time, you begin to recognize that silence can communicate things words often cannot. Distance sometimes hides emotions beneath the appearance of withdrawal. What looks like absence on the surface may contain feelings that remain steady underneath. You may not see those feelings clearly right now, yet they continue existing. One day, when healing has progressed and circumstances align more naturally, the energy that feels paused today may begin moving forward with greater clarity and understanding. Until then, your patience with yourself becomes one of the most valuable lessons available. Learning how to feel without forcing answers creates emotional maturity that will serve you well in every future relationship. Every unanswered question and every memory you revisit reminds you of how deeply you cared. They also reveal the strength of the bond you experienced. Love often survives in quieter forms than people expect. There are moments when they think about you unexpectedly. A familiar song, a place, a scent, or a small reminder can suddenly bring memories rushing back. During late nights or quiet moments, their thoughts often drift toward you. They wonder how you are doing. They hope you are happy. Sometimes they think about how different things might have been if they had acted with more courage or spoken more openly. Yet fear still prevents them from taking action. This fear creates a kind of emotional paralysis. Their desire to reach out remains real, but hesitation continues, winning the battle for now. They replay past conversations and imagine alternative choices, different words, and opportunities they wish they had taken. One surprising truth about this distance is that the connection itself holds the power to transform them. Real transformation can be intimidating because it requires confronting parts of yourself that have remained hidden for a long time. You brought forward emotions, fears, and truths they were not fully prepared to face. Because of that, they stepped back. Their withdrawal became a pause rather than a rejection. It serves as a period of internal sorting rather than evidence that they stopped caring. Trying to force quick answers or immediate conclusions often creates more resistance. Pressure tends to intensify fears rather than resolve them. Some realizations emerge only when a person reaches a greater sense of inner peace. Healing follows its own timeline. Clarity often develops naturally when enough space exists for emotions to settle. Patience creates opportunities for understanding that cannot be rushed. This situation does not mean you are difficult to love. It does not mean you expected too much. It simply means you encountered someone whose feelings were real, but whose emotional readiness had not yet reached the same level as their affection. That reality says nothing negative about your value. Instead, it highlights how personal growth, timing, and emotional preparedness often influence relationships as much as love itself. What you shared was genuine. Even if it contained periods of silence and uncertainty, it still left meaningful impressions on both of you. Those experiences mattered. The memories remain because the connection itself was important. Distance and silence do not erase what existed. More often, they reveal personal challenges that still require healing and growth. The story remains unfinished, not because the feelings lack depth, but because the circumstances lacked readiness. Love does not always disappear when it becomes invisible. Sometimes it waits quietly, sometimes it grows beneath the surface. Sometimes it becomes ready only when both people have reached a healthier emotional place. The influence of your shared experience continues shaping how you understand connection, compassion, and emotional intimacy. Through this journey, you learn patience, self-respect, and the ability to hold space for another person's struggles without abandoning your own needs. You discover that genuine love includes understanding hidden battles, even when those battles are expressed through silence rather than words. Some of the deepest forms of care remain concealed behind hesitation, uncertainty, and fear. At the same time, you deserve affection that meets you with consistency, openness, and emotional stability. The pauses and distance form only one chapter within a much larger story involving healing, growth, and proper timing. Every feeling you experienced and every memory that remains proves the connection carried significance. It revealed your capacity to care deeply and taught lessons that will strengthen future relationships. Whether this person eventually returns or whether someone new enters your life, the emotional wisdom gained through this experience will remain valuable. Honor your feelings while allowing room for growth. Respect your journey and theirs. Understand that distance does not always remove love. Sometimes it reshapes love into something wiser, calmer, and more mature. The connection continues, influencing your path toward greater understanding of patience, vulnerability, and emotional depth. Love does not always require constant closeness. Sometimes it involves allowing room for personal growth. Sometimes it asks for reflection, healing, and temporary separation. Not every meaningful bond remains in its original form. Certain connections arrive primarily to teach important lessons about self-worth, resilience, emotional awareness, and the kind of relationship you truly deserve. Those lessons remain valuable regardless of the final outcome. If they return someday, it will likely happen with greater awareness, stronger self-standing, and more courage than before. Fear will no longer hold the same power, and healing will have created space for genuine connection. Until then, the distance serves its own purpose within the larger journey. Stop carrying responsibility for wounds that were never yours to heal. Stop minimizing your own needs to make someone else comfortable. If the care is truly meant to grow into something lasting, they will eventually meet you fully rather than offering only fragments of themselves. If not, the distance may be guiding you towards someone capable of matching your depth with consistency and confidence. A person can genuinely care about you and still feel unprepared to remain close. That truth can be painful, yet it does not diminish your value. Instead, it guides you toward relationships that grow steadily, without requiring distance as a form of survival. Your heart deserves love that honors your ability to care deeply without leaving you trapped in constant uncertainty. The periods of silence and reflection are not wasted. They prepare you for connections that feel balanced, healthy, and fulfilling. The understanding you gain from this experience brings clarity whenever emotions become complicated. Recognizing hidden patterns helps you navigate relationships with greater wisdom and compassion for yourself. Love may sometimes become quiet. It may occasionally appear distant. Yet meaningful experiences never lose their value completely. Every part of this journey contributes to your growth and moves you closer to the kind of affection that endures with strength, honesty, and lasting emotional depth.